Evan Jackson, Young Bold Regal here. We're here with the Grammy-winning artist Q Parker. You know him from 112, but he has this fantastic solo project called Evolution of Romance Volume 1. So thank you for being on the show today. But also, if a Volume 1 implies a Volume 2.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it also implies that, you know, I'm gonna be here for a while.
Yeah.
This journey, this movement of romance. I've coined myself the romance dealer.
Mhm.
So, I was very intentional when putting the volume one on there because I wanted the listener to know that again, I'm not going nowhere no time soon. This is a series project, and I think it's going to take me about 4 or 5 volumes to really get the whole idea of romance in the way that I envision it in my head. Right now, it's volume one. We just laying down the foundation. Volume two, we're gonna go a little bit deeper, expand on it, and so that everybody has um, a full palette and a full plate of romance.
Most definitely. And I like the narrative throughout the album from Beg to Making Good Love. Tell us how you constructed that, and in one of your captions for Instagram, you said every lyric, every note is specifically in place.
Man, it's having an amazing team first and foremost. Black Elvis, Felly the Voice, Al Jamal, Ant, Tario J. Bush, Rico Love, Ghost Kid. You know, truly understanding that the conversation started first. What is it that we want to say? We want this project to embody full and complete romance. And so, how do we do that? We started from the beginning, which was, instituting this idea of begging for each other. Not the traditional definition of beg, but this new definition of beg, which is an
Mhm.
acronym bringing endless gratitude. And so we take begging to keep on loving, and then hey, listen to me, woman, about my thoughts and my feelings with triple F. And then now I'm gonna give you what you're wanting, which is light work. And then, I think we should experience a threesome. If your love was so amazing, it could prevent a world war, right? It's all of those things to really lay down, as I said, the volume one and the foundation. So it's kind of like an overview. And then we'll come back with volume two and three to really, really like hone in on specific areas of romance.
And I've been hearing in the zeitgeist with some of my homegirls, sometimes they feel that romance is a lost art. So, in your definition overall, what is the evolution of romance? What are we evoluting to?
Right. And so there is synergy between the evolution of Q Parker and evolution of romance. When the world was introduced to me, I was 19 years old. I'll
Mhm.
be 50 years old next year. So over the 30 years, there's an evolution and a maturation of Q Quintus Parker. But then also, in defining romance in the 80s, it was defined a certain way,
Yeah.
90s, and here we are 2025. And so just trying to encompass and embody all of these expansions and this evolution of Q Parker as well as romance is how we came up with evolution of romance volume one.
And you have such a historic career, not only with 112, but co-writing such hits like Keisha Cole's I Should Have Cheated. What's the biggest difference between writing for somebody else and then writing for the current day Q Parker?
The premise is always the same. You want to create and write from an authentic place. And so, the same process that I take myself through in writing for myself is what I apply when I'm writing for other artists. What's going on in your world? What's going on in your mind? What are some things that you want to sing about? Because at the end of the day, I want you to always be connected to the compositions that you put together. And, God willing, 30 years down the line, you still have a connection with said records because they all, excuse me, came from an authentic place. And you always, it's like being an actor, to embody a certain character, you have to be able to go to certain places
Yeah.
so that that character becomes authentic to who you are. And so that's the same approach that I apply when I'm creating for myself or when I'm creating for other artists.
What are your feelings on the current state of R&B and music overall? They said R&B has been a resurgence over the last 5 to 10 years with yourself, with other artists, with the Coco Jones, with the Summer Walker, where they're actually having more contemporary R&B versus, let's say, maybe 10 or 20 years ago, it was very hip hop infused. Now we're kind of having a restructuring of the genre back to its time. What are your feelings on that?
I'm very grateful first and foremost that artists feel the need and the necessity to have certain components of older R&B infused into where they are and how they are delivering it present day. When you think about today's generation of artists, they're now sampling records from the 90s.
Yeah.
Well, there is a commonality there because their parents were part of the 90s era. So although they may be 20 years old now, but all they probably heard in their parents' home growing up was 112 and Tank and Genuine and all. And so
Hmm.
what they know of music comes from the era that we came from. And so I believe that it's that sentiment right there is why a lot of the elements of the 80s and 90s era is now being infused into today's artists. And I'm one of those OGs or legends that allows grace and space for the current artists to interpret the genre in the way that creatively they feel it and they see it. I always say to people, it may not be your cup of tea and it may not be what you go to, but let's give them the space to be able to create it in their style and their form. And there's some parts of today's R&B that I love. There's some parts that I don't. But there's room for everybody to be
Yeah.
able to still be creative and present the meal that you want the people to sit at your table to partake in.
Who's a current artist that you'd love to work with that you haven't had a chance to yet?
A current artist that I would love to work with. I love the movement of like Kevin Ross, Jay Brown, Lavelle. Um, man, it's just so many artists that are out here that may not be nationally known, but they're just doing something
Big work.
major and contributing to the legacy of R&B, in the way that our forefathers or our predecessors or our legends laid the foundation and the groundwork. And so, any of those artists, I would love to do some work with. But then also, I'm one of those creators that I just like to do hot shit. It could come from somebody that you know, or it can be somebody that you don't know. As long as at the end of the day, we are contributing to the legacy of R&B music, man, sign me up.
It's all good.
Man, listen. When OG royalty is in the building, man, we can't lose that moment, man. That was the OG legend, Carl Kanai, man. Ooh,
That's a perfect segue.
absolutely.
Scratch the last one. Talk about the impact of yourself and 112, not only musically and tonally, but linking with a Carl Kanai back then, wearing the clothes, the music videos. To tell you a little story, right? I grew up in the era of MTV, BET, but what changed the game for me was MTV Jams,
Yeah.
the 24-hour channel. So I would study the moves you want to know.
No, you did, man. Let me see one real quick. Let me see one.
Oh man, you know that one, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Y'all. For me, I didn't grow up in the era of New Edition, so I couldn't relate.
Yeah.
I really love the R&B songs, but the real deep R&B songs, I was like, I'm not in love yet. I'm a kid yet. So you guys
Yeah.
were the perfect mix. So when y'all came out there with your fly gear doing this, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Talk about that cultural impact, because that impacted me from seeing, visualizing. I always consider music videos art. They're mini movies, right? You
Mm-hmm.
told June
Mm-hmm.
Ambrose this. So getting back to you and that era, talk about that influence you see across not only music but across culture.
Man, I don't see, for me, it's just it's a deeper level, man, because you know, what do you say, few are called, many are chosen, or
Hmm.
many are chosen, few, however you say it.
Yeah.
Um, I don't take that lightly. There's a huge responsibility of how you uphold the opportunity. And, me now approaching 30 years in the game, to walk in rooms and people say, you know, you impacted my life when I was a teenager. You know, my most happiest moments were listening to one of your songs. That is a major contributor to the culture. And, to be able to have these songs impact generations and cultures, like I don't take that lightly, man. When you talk about the legacy of R&B music, you cannot mention 112. And
Yeah.
so the legacy of not only my contribution is massive, but it's something that my grandchildren's children's children can always go back and be like, yo, that's my ancestor right there.
Hmm.
My ancestor contributed majorly to the progression of a certain type of genre. And man, I don't take that lightly, man. And so anytime I am delivering some music, I want to make sure it hits a special place, because these people carry these songs with them for their entire lives.
Very true. And what I like about this album and your career, there's a maturation of it. Um,
Yeah.
what are some moments in your musical career where you're like, all right, I'm gonna need to shift my perspective a bit on tonally or maybe lyric wise on what I'm giving my audience.
Yeah, I just knew that when I started to do solo music, which was in 2012, I knew that I wanted to just go. I wanted to expand on the foundation that I laid, that was laying with my brothers, 112.
Hmm.
Again, you all were introduced to the 112 and the Q Parker as a teenager, going into young adulthood,
Hmm.
going to my late 20s, early 30s. Well, from that moment, now the world here here's what Q Parker, this matured man, this father, this husband, this lover of life, has now experienced in a way to where now I can give you a singular perspective musically from just my personal heart. And that is a more mature, that is putting all of my experiences now on record. I spoke about being authentic earlier. Well, there's a certain level of authenticity that I can give now as a solo artist that I may not could have given as a member of 112. I can now singularly tell a Q Parker story about marriage. I can singularly tell a Q Parker story about fatherhood and philanthropy and activism, and all of these things. And so again, 112 prepared me for now to being able to deliver this Q Parker version of R&B, life, romance, love, heartbreak, legacy, philanthropy, all of these things.
And what I love about that too is that your career in that era, you essentially with 112 invented the remix.
Yeah,
The remix used to be A and B side on a cassette tape, and it was sometimes pop off, but
yeah,
with the invention of music videos, it gave the song a new life.
another life. Yes,
So
yes, it
talk
did.
about
Yes, it
that
did.
as well.
That was just the brilliance of Puffy, man. One way to extend the life of a record was to do a remix, because the remix would just pump additional life into the record. And sometimes when your record would maybe stall at a certain position on the charts, here comes the remix that would just like catapult it
Yep.
over the hump. But it all contributed to the one ID of the song. And so Only You, which has had the original version and the remix, they both became very successful records, but
Mega
the
hits.
remix
Yeah.
just jolted another level of energy into the song. And then it also introduced Mace to the world.
Yep. And what I wish from that era, if I had a time machine, if y'all went back and copy wrote the remix, and y'all all be multi billionaires.
Hey man, well the beauty of it is, um we do have ownership.
Yes.
And from a royalty standpoint, we're still getting paid off of records that are now 30 years old
Yes.
because we have ownership in those records. And then after so long, the master's ownership reverted back to us also.
Mm.
And so if anybody is wanting to license or do any type of syncing anything now, as the owners of the masters now, we get to live in that space as well. And so that's something that I preach to the younger generation, the importance of ownership and just knowing how to properly navigate through this world of artistry as an independent. There is power in ownership, and so now as an independent artist myself, who has spent time under the major record labels and the major umbrellas, I just now apply what I learned from the major systems in my own independent company, in my own independent management. And so I'm able to just mirror everything that I witnessed the major labels do, and I've just created somewhat of an incubated system as an independent major, I would say.
And what's also so interesting now, technology companies and apps are using that term remix for their content as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you're part of that evolution and revolution as well. The last
yeah.
question I wanted to ask you, what's the boldest move you made in your career, on your life, that reaffirmed your path or set you on a new path?
Just belief, and shooting the shot. They always say you'll never know if you'll make the shot unless you shoot the shot. And the day that I decided to shoot the shot was when I did the first solo album. Not being reliant on, the security of my brothers, Slim, Mike, and Duran, but saying, hey, I'm gonna go in the gym by myself and I'm gonna actually shoot this shot. And the realization that, hey, it actually, I drove to the gym, I actually lifted my arm, I flicked my wrist, and a shot was off. And the beauty of that journey was watching the rotation, watching it travel through the air, and actually making the shot that gave me confidence to shoot it again and keep shooting it and keep shooting it until I got the confidence to know that every shot I shoot, I'm believing that I'm going to make it. And so I just translated that mindset into now Q Parker, the individual, and Q Parker, the solo artist.
And that's what's so great about your career, and a great advice for people is bet on yourself and make
Got to,
sure to double down.
got to double down on yourself. Exactly.
So to end the conversation, we're here once again with Q Parker, such a great musical artist, such a great figure in music overall with 112, and now he's on his independent journey with the Evolution of Romance Volume One. So we're gonna
Yes.
anticipate that Volume Two. Make sure to see his music videos on YouTube. Listen to it on YouTube, but listen to it on all music platforms, especially the ones you like: Spotify, Apple Music, all that.
Yes.
So thank you again.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you too, brother.
All right. Take care.
Take care.